We are just having luck right now.
We really are. I mean, all things considered. All things considered. This is about as good as it could get. I mean, here we are. We're on the TikTok live.
We are.
Jester is licking something for the viewers at home right now.
Yeah. Yep. Your cat has no shame.
I mean, I wouldn't either if I was a feline.
True. You probably wouldn't have the concept of shame.
Yeah, especially because she 100% knows that she kind of runs the show around here.
Yeah. She poops in places she's not supposed to. She knocks over our cups. And there's very little we can do about it.
I mean, the pooping is just a behavior reinforcement thing that I need to work on. But other than that, she's a very good cat. I love her dearly.
Very good.
She's adorable. She hasn't joined us for the last couple of recordings. She's kind of just like fucked off and done her own thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we coaxed her into laying in bed while we recorded today.
I'm sure she will stand up and, not want to be here eventually.
I mean, that's just how cats be.
That or she'll fall asleep for the entire hour. Who knows?
Yeah, can't hold them down. Anyway, this is the Dungeon Bros podcast.
Mm-hmm. We are them, the Dungeon Bros.
We are the Dungeon Bros. We are still not brothers.
But and also still not in a dungeon.
No. We really do need to remedy the lack of dungeon.
What do you suggest?
I mean, we've previously joked about the sex dungeon for all the sex that isn't happening in this home.
Correct.
As we have discussed with another person that we know in real life, the Dildo Maiden. An Iron Maiden of dildos. Would be a wonderful addition to such a to a den of depravity like that. There we go.
All right,
a den
sure.
of depravity.
I suppose, or we could make like a D&D dungeon where we have creepy wall paintings and people play D&D with us down there.
Well, I figured that just kind of went without saying that's how that would go eventually.
I feel a lot of people wouldn't play D&D with us if we had faux medieval torture implements that are faux, that were also very phallic.
I mean,
obsessively phallic, some might say.
I would argue that more people would play D&D with us in such a situation.
Different kinds of people would play D&D with us.
I mean, Salem would still play.
Yeah.
Darren would still play.
Probably.
He would just give us a hard time about it and be uncomfortable. That's okay.
That's how he constantly is, so.
Jacob wouldn't judge us. He would not approve, but he would recognize that we have our own way of life that's different from his.
Yes.
He'd be very respectful about it. He would inquire and want to like educate himself on our den of depravity.
He is a very courteous person. We are all the better for knowing him.
But we are not.
No.
The courteous ones here.
We do our best. We just don't try that hard.
Well, that's fair. We are courteous. We're not that guy, pal. You know?
You're not that guy.
We're not that guy. Anyway, we will be discussing D&D.
We will.
As we always do.
We do.
We have a couple news stories. Nothing too major. And then we're going to be talking about cantrips.
Cantrips, yes.
As you all know, the damaging cantrips, they level up with you as your character levels up and deals more damage as you level up. Now, the other non-damage dealing cantrips do not have such a mechanic where they improve as they level up. But there's a wonderful homebrew that I found on Reddit a long time ago by Krayos125, aka Yunki, with help of Lotrian and many other artists. And they worked on a homebrew where they created a 5th, 11th, and 17th level improvement for all of the PHB non-damage dealing cantrips. And I believe there might be a couple in here that are from others, but I don't quite remember. Anyway, we're putting the cart before the horse here. There's beef on TikTok.
There
right
is
now.
beef.
There's some big beef going on between the council and the Vancelord and a rogue named Shay, who's been spilling some beans out there of many male secrets of the world that the council has kept safe for generations. Now, I would argue the council should not be keeping these secrets from the people of this world, and that they've been possibly a bit oppressive to the people of the world by denying them the opportunity to learn about the pocket junk scratch, for example, the tuck behind, if you will.
Some things that are passed down from
Man to man, generation to generation.
sometimes skipping a generation, but they always come back.
They always come back. Universal experiences of man.
Truths, one might say.
Truths that we have been shamed for, that we have hidden. And I really do. I am pro rogue. I want to spill all of the secrets to everyone, just so that we can remove the stigma surrounding some things as the long step to stretch and to separate your junk from your thigh on a hot, sweaty day, if you will.
It's a terribly unfortunate thing that we have to hide behind these performances of, I'm just needing to do a lunge.
Yeah.
Now is a lunge time. No, it's not lunch.
It's not a lunch time.
It's not lunch time.
It's never a lunch time.
Well, I do some lunges now and then.
Well, since we're talking about exercise now, something I don't do is exercise.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I'm a retired athlete, not professional, non-professional athlete, but a retired athlete nonetheless.
High school athlete.
And though I do not exercise, I have been watching my caloric intake. Very proud of myself. I'm limiting the amount of calories I'm intaking these days.
Mm-hmm.
Already lost 2.5 pounds, and it hasn't even been a month. So
Little steps.
And I really haven't changed anything about my diet other than I just pay attention to what I'm eating, and by keeping track of it and knowing what my headroom is for the day.
Yeah. It's one of the big things to success is making sure you're still enjoying your life. I've never understood the people who are like, I will lose weight by eating plain potatoes and boiled chicken and kale. Yeah, I don't like
boiled
kale.
Chicken?
Yeah.
No.
No, there's so many better ways to cook chicken, even without the extra olive oil or anything.
Sear it. Grill it.
Yeah. Ooh, love a grilled chicken.
Just some fucking salt and pepper and in a pan, a dry pan. It's fine.
Yeah. Dude, it'll be great.
I don't know. That's neither here nor there. We're just kind of meandering around.
Well, I actually I had a thought, because I have...
What's her name?
No, not that kind of thought. The thinking kind.
Oh, the thinking kind. Okay.
Surprisingly, I do have those occasionally.
Thinking kind.
Yes, the thinking kind. Yes, not the other kind. I often have, as you are well aware, when I do work, I work remotely, and so I'll have my my computer set to my work on one side, and on my second monitor, I'll often have a show. Maybe it's YouTube. Recently, it's been Hulu. Recently, it's been MasterChef. Really, really enjoying MasterChef. Love Gordon Ramsay just telling people that they're idiots. But if you could be on a reality TV show of any kind, doesn't have to be cooking, which one would you go on?
Big Brother.
Big Brother?
Big Brother.
Big Brother?
That one's fun. It's literally just a bunch of attractive people, which I know I'm not one of, but I'd be surrounded by attractive people, both male and female. Just to be surrounded by them all the time. The idea of the interpersonal politics I find hilarious, because they always make it so much more dramatic than it needs to.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I would just be living it up because I would participate, but I would have really no stake in it.
You do have a flair for the dramatic.
I would love it. I would love it so much. Not to mention the games that they play on Big Brother, much like any reality show where people get eliminated from time to time, seem very enjoyable. It would be a good time. I feel like I'd have a lot of fun in that house, and I would be the person that would like, oh, this giant wall of mirror that totally has cameras behind it. I'm just gonna look at it for a while. Like I would
Pointedly stare.
I would get a segment on at least a couple of those shows of me just like staring at the cameras and like doing goofy shit. 100% would do Big Brother. A similar style of show being Survivor, but Survivor I feel like requires a lot more of me than Big Brother would. So I would go with Big Brother.
Fair enough. All right. I was never allowed to watch Big Brother as a child.
Me neither. I watched it with one of my college girlfriends.
Gotcha.
Like my college girlfriend. She was a very big fan and got me into it. I have not watched it since, but it was a good time.
Well, there you go. Like I said, I've never watched it, so I don't exactly know what the games are, but I can imagine they're pretty generic tests of skill.
You know, some intelligence-based things, some speed, some dexterity. Always need the dexterity. Endurance,
of course.
And sometimes they just like they just hurt each other. It's just hilarious.
American Gladiator style.
Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes
a puffy thing hitting another.
Like a American Gladiator meets like Takeshi's Castle.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like Wipeout, kind of.
Sure. Things that if they weren't competing for money, people would probably
like you might be able to do it like a carnival.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Pay an overprice to do a shitty version of. Because I personally would. I've been told by multiple people actually that they think I would do well on MasterChef. Up to this point, I have not watched MasterChef, so I had no idea, and I think I would do fine.
I feel like. Though your cooking is lovely.
Thank you.
I feel like you would fare better on like an Amazing Race.
Interesting.
More than a Master Chef.
But here's the thing. Travel is one of my hells.
Yeah. But you're fast.
I do move fast.
You're rapid.
I am quick. Like a rabbit.
Plus, in an Amazing Race situation, you're not having... I think a lot of the stress of travel is the planning and the executing. Whereas with Amazing Race, you're just like... I'm going. Like, you're just going. You're constantly going. You don't have a moment to think, so you don't have a moment to get stressed, really.
Well, for me, it's like, okay, some of it is, the planning is obviously rough. But I can also do the thing where it's like, all right, we're leaving tomorrow. Cool. We're stopping in this town. There's a hotel. Okay, I've purchased my hotel room. For me, I just really hate sitting in cars and on planes for hours and hours and hours on end.
That's fair. Anyway, this is ostensibly the Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
Did I ever tell you about the drinking game that Andy said he would play if he was a drinker? Would be every time you said the word ostensibly, he would take a shot.
Ostensibly.
Yeah. So if you're playing that drinking game, ostensibly.
A
D&D podcast.
Ostensibly a D&D podcast. Ostensibly. And Andy, just for you, ostensibly. A D&D podcast.
D&D podcast.
If you like us, you've probably found us on the TikTok, though we also have a YouTube page. You can subscribe to us there. That's where we post these podcasts, as well as podcasting services round the globe. Mm-hmm. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere. It's all available.
Yeah, we'd love for you to go listen.
Free to go, all
Not
free.
right now.
All free. No ads.
No ads.
We're
not big enough.
Happily would chill.
Oh, we are suckers.
Yes. You can also ask us questions in the TikTok live chat if you are watching live, as well as in the podcast questions text channel of our Discord server, a link to which you can find in the description or in one of the social links on pretty much any of our social media sites.
Indeed.
That being said, we got a couple D&D things to talk about today.
Some news. Not too much happening in the D&D news world recently, but yeah, we found a few things.
Outside of book releases, there's not a whole lot going on right now. So there's like no Unearthed Arcana. There's no particularly interesting things going on in the world of Wizards of the Coast specifically. Though, there are some interesting D&D adjacent things going on. For example, right now, as reported by PCGamesN.com, as well as many other gaming websites. This was just the first one that popped up for me. Neverwinter, the D&D MMORPG, is about to release their next module, Dragonborn Veil, It should be out by the time you're listening to this podcast. Neverwinter is a free-to-play MMORPG in the world of Faerun, one of the planes of existence in D&D. Right now, this Dragonborn Vale is going to be a story signaling Valindra Shadowmantle and the Cult of Dragons, where they move to bring undeath to dragons across Faerun and beyond using an ancient artifact that's come into their possession. Module ushers in the new adventure zone, as well as heroic encounters, and even a grappling hook mechanic. Love a good grappling hook mechanic that lets you traverse around the game's world in a whole new way. And you can find some really great first looks at Dragonborn Vale on the YouTubes. They've got a lot of clips going around. Are you an MMO? Are you an MMO guy?
I've never been an MMO guy. I've always kind of like thought about it. Like a lot of them look cool, but not never actually delved into one.
Never delved into one. One of my college roommates played Final Fantasy XIV a lot, like a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's a fairly acclaimed MMORPG right now. Though most of my experience is with RuneScape Classic.
Yes,
back in the like 2007 to 2010 range. Very, very big fan into that. Never paid for it. Was never a member, but I did the free to play, and I did like pretty much everything that you could do in RuneScape. Very good time. The Neverwinter MMORPG, I mean, looks stunning compared to any MMO I've ever played.
It's been a couple years now, though.
It's been a few years. It also looks fairly comparable to Final Fantasy XIV in art style. I'm sure they're also running it on just like beast PCs for all of the screenshots and videos that they have.
Oh, definitely.
But looks neat. I love the idea of a free-to-play D&D MMORPG. If that is your jam, I mean, check it out. If you like D&D, if you like MMORPGs, you might dig it. It's free, very low barrier to entry, and it seems like they have a whole lot of really cool expansions available.
Yeah, I always find it interesting. I mean, D&D video games have been produced since D&D came out, really, on the oldest of consoles and every generation there since. It interests me which ones, have success, and clearly this one has some good success to continuously put out content.
Yep. Recently, last October, Baldur's Gate 3 is a recent Dungeons & Dragons inspired role-playing game series. Much closer to like your like a Diablo-esque. I don't know. That doesn't feel right. It's a cool RPG. Yeah. It recently came out. It got fairly good scores. There was a demo out for a while. A lot of right at the beginning with character creation, it looks exactly like D&D.
Oh yeah,
like it's got all the same stats. It's got all the same races. It's D&D, about as D&D as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, if people are wanting to play around with the idea of D&D and without playing, if you can't play D&D with your group, video games never a bad option.
Mm-hmm. As reported by comicbook.com, as well as many other outlets. Many others. Wizards of the Coast had planned to produce a Dungeons & Dragons television show inspired by one of its most unique campaign settings, SpellJammer.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2002, Wizards of the Coast filed a trademark for SpellJammer, a space fantasy setting involving magic ships sailing through a sea of gas-like phlogiston. I have no clue what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
Phlogiston. All right. To reach worlds encased in glass spheres. The Wizards of the Coast filed the trademark for, quote, entertainment services in the nature of an ongoing television series and production of motion pictures. The old trademark was eventually abandoned in 2004, and that trademark came to light recently in a forum post on the Piazza, a D&D-focused website. Now, it's very interesting that Wizards of the Coast was going for a D&D universe television show back in the early 2000s and late 90s. The late 90s, I feel like the 90s in general were a pretty good time for D&D, but coming out of the 90s at the turn of the century, turn of the millennia, if you will. Definitely kind of went back underground, it seems.
But part of it was also SpellJammer is obviously a space odyssey adventure sort of thing. But, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s was very big into a lot of space media. Star Wars was...
The prequels.
The prequels were coming out.
Space Jam.
Space Jam. Come on, Slam, and welcome to Space Jam.
Yeah.
But if the article goes on to say that TSR had tried to work SpellJammer more earlier in the 90s, trying to create a board game that had a live action, basically TV show that went along with it. And there's a YouTube video connected to the article, and it is hilariously low budget. The 90s did create, the 80s, 90s definitely had
some great movies.
Great movies, including space movies. Yes. This was not one of them.
Yeah, then you have like the Power Rangers movie, and
this was below the Power Rangers movie.
Oh boy. Even TMNT, the live actions.
Hey man,
the first one was good.
I watched the shit out of those when I was a kid.
Oh, same. The first one was great. The other two were a little shakier.
Yeah,
Didn't be like that. But for those that are interested in SpellJammer, it does look like it is all but confirmed that Wizards of the Coast plans on reviving the SpellJammer setting, and apparently the D&D design team is working on a retooling of the core rules, as we know, in 2024, and they suspect that there might be some tweaks in there to make it a little bit more SpellJammer friendly for any future campaign setting book that might come out.
And as we know, Wizards is looking to put out more campaign settings in general, because obviously there's a lot in the way of high fantasy and classic fantasy in in all the books we own. Mm-hmm. I think Strixhaven being one of those that kind of veers into a different form of fantasy, a little bit more towards that Harry Potter inspired fantasy, as we talked about on our third podcast?
Fourth.
Yes, on the fourth podcast. Go check it out.
On the fourth podcast.
But
Strixhaven came to me.
We go a deep delve into Strixhaven. But so more campaign settings involving a wider range of areas that I think other TTRPGs cover a little. Maybe like the Star Wars tabletop roleplay game covers space. And there are others that cover like Wild West and things like that. But so that's definitely an area that Wizards can move into a little more with their official modules.
I agree. I also think they've recognized that campaign settings and rule supplements tend to sell a bit better for the books than adventure modules do. Mm-hmm. I think that's partially why they advertised Strixhaven as a campaign setting, even though it really is an adventure module.
It really is.
So I'm sure they're looking at more campaign settings that they can release. I mean, they've partnered with Magic the Gathering to bring Strixhaven, and they're going to be bringing other Magic the Gathering planes as well. They've partnered with Critical Role to bring Critical Role campaign settings in.
The Wild Mountain, and Tal'Dorei will get an official Wizards release later
Tal'Dorei
this year, I believe, or next year?
It should be. It's this year.
It's this year?
It's in a couple of months.
I don't even know what year it is.
Yeah. Regardless. Love to check out a SpellJammers. I'm not as big of a sci-fi person.
You're not.
But like space fantasy, I'm a little bit more open to.
I'm sure a lot of it could be converted into high seas as opposed to space, but we'll have to see. We will be sure to follow our podcast and wait when that comes out.
Indeed.
We'll be on that.
Indeed.
Our
Our last news story of the day comes from Milwaukee Independent. Slaying social anxiety. The world's most successful role-playing game could provide a sanctuary of comfort amid the chaos for those struggling with post-lockdown angst following the pandemic.
So this is obviously psychology delving into the world of tabletop roleplay games, and it's not the first time. I've definitely had seen articles in the past where therapists are using D&D to help break the barriers that a lot of people have when it comes to actually talking about their mental health.
Wizards of the Coast released a report showing that of its estimated 50 million players, 54% were younger than 30 and 40% identified as female. There's a lot more demographic breakdowns of the player base for D&D, and this article really goes into the recent growth in D&D and the new demographic of people playing it and why, delving into the feeling of isolation that people had even pre-pandemic and during pandemic, and finding outlets through D&D, either playing or watching, like Critical Role, Dimension 20, etc. And how storytelling and collaborating, even digitally via Zoom or Roll20, or I've heard of people even playing text on Discord, and how that has generally helped people. It's nice to see that people are taking D&D seriously, positively, and not some devil worship nonsense.
Yes. When no repeats of the Satanic Panic coming down the line, thankfully. But I mean, obviously, the pandemic changed a lot of perspectives. I mean, there's a meme format. You know, one of the memes that goes around is like, oh, look at this headline that was posted in 2019, and it's like, video games are killing America. And then in 2020, video games are saving America, because people are now being able to play video games instead of going crazy during the pandemic.
It's always interesting how things that are just kind of on the outside are castigated and put down for so long. And then a sort of collective trauma happens to people, and they realize, oh, this thing that we just didn't understand is actually really cool and helping people.
Oh yeah.
And it's nice that like a serious publication is talking about D&D. They get into a little bit of Strixhaven and talk about Magic the Gathering and art, and how it kind of draws from popular culture, like Harry Potter and stuff. It's a good little read. Highly recommend. If you know anyone with social anxiety or any sorts of issues, encourage them to play D&D.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I actually used to work with a girl. I used to work at a board game bar, and there was a host there who, she had terrible social anxiety, so she had to literally, in the working, not literally, but she would put on a mask to be able to take people to tables. But then, after a couple months of working with her, she was actually able to talk to me. She said that she loved playing D&D, but the only way she could play was when she put on a wizard hat and a fake beard.
Hey, I respect that. Got to do what you got to do.
I mean, you know what? She, that was her thing. And I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. I just find it a very...
yuck anybody's yum.
Pretty common phrase.
That one made me feel uncomfy.
Really? That made you feel uncomfy?
From time to time. Anyway, let's get into the meat of what we're talking about here.
Yes.
The meat, 30 minutes in, of what we're talking about.
Little
it might not be exactly 30 minutes. Don't freaking sue me. All right. As we're recording, it's 30 minutes. We were talking about a lovely little bit of homebrew that I discovered on the Reddits quite a while ago.
Indeed.
And as we said before, it is made by user Krayos125, a.k.a. Yunkey, with the help of Lotrian, as well as a small smattering of artists that have some beautiful art for this. They took the idea where damaging cantrips level up at level 5, 11, and 17 to increase the damage die. They took that concept of adding abilities to cantrips at level 5, 11, and 17 to like every other cantrip in the player's handbook.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna talk about like pretty much all of them.
We've got time.
We will start alphabetical order. Blade Ward.
Blade Ward.
Samuel,
Yes.
what does Blade Ward do?
Blade Ward. Until the end of your next turn, you have resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage dealt by weapon attacks.
Oof.
Bum, bum, ba-da.
Yeah, not a great cantrip.
No, especially because it is an action.
Yeah, a full action to gain resistance to physical damage. Doesn't negate any elemental damage, poison damage, radiant, none of it.
And it specifies by weapon attacks, so
Yeah.
if you get hit by a spell that causes slashing damage.
Yeah. But if you get hit by, say, a catapult,
Yeah.
that is a spell that deals bludgeoning damage. It's not going to help you.
No.
Also, spending your entire action to take half damage, maybe, is really not the best use of your time. It's something that happens passively for the barbarian in their
raging.
rage. But with this homebrew, at level 5, cantrip gains a range of 30 feet and can affect one creature of your choice. So it doesn't have to just affect you. You can use it on party members, which I would argue is more in the spirit of what this cantrip really should have been to begin with.
I think so too. We've discussed it previously. Is the being able to cast on yourself as an action doesn't help you because you can just dodge, you can run away, you can do a bunch of things. But being able to cast on on a friendly creature, maybe they're in combat, being able to defend them, help them defend themselves, or keep them from going down, maybe far more useful.
Especially if you're using some bonus action spells.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. We'll just go through the other two quickly. At 11th level, you can ignore the verbal component of the spell, which just lets you kind of more stealthily do it.
And so if you're bound, if you're gagged.
Yes. And at 17th level, both you and a target within 30 feet get the benefit at the same time. So just kind of quality of life things. The big buff there is that 5th level ability that actually makes it more useful.
It does.
But if I had a player that took Blade Ward, I might just let them cast it at other people anyway, like just as a baseline thing, because that's really what makes that cantrip like worth taking, is the ability to defend allies.
The other one I've done is given one of my players a magic item that lets them cast it as a bonus action 3 times per day.
Yes. Next is Control Flames. It is a cantrip in Xanathars that lets you control a flame.
You can control non-magical flames you can see within range, expanding the flame, extinguishing it, doubling or having the brightness, and cause it to form simple shapes.
Yep. With this homebrew at 5th level, you can quadruple the area of bright light or dim light cast by the flame instead of half or double. At 11th, you can have up to 6 non-instantaneous effects active at a time and can dismiss such as a bonus action. You may also choose to affect any non-magical flames within range for the purpose of making them brighter or dimmer. Basically, now you can use affect the forever flame torch.
Yes.
At 17th level, you can affect flames within a 10-foot cube, may expand the flame 5 feet in any direction, provided that fuel is present in the new location, and the duration of non-instantaneous effects increases to 24 hours. All just sort of small little quality of life, making it more useful. If you're taking control flames, you probably already have an idea for what you want to use it for, and this just makes it easier.
Yes, that's
That's
I
about
think
all.
that's a lot of these are some are cantrips that you're already going to be taking because they're pretty good, and these are just going to increase them just a little bit more. Others are going to change them to make it useful.
One such example, Dancing Lights, the next one. Many people are going to be many people are going to be taking Dancing Lights. I believe it lets you create 4 orbs of light, sheds, 5-10 feet?
Sheds, dim light in a 10-foot radius.
Yep. I have Dancing Lights as for my wizard Lucian.
Yep.
At 5th level, when you create the lights, you may choose any amount of them to shed bright light in a 10-foot radius and then dim light in 10 feet. Just making it more useful, more bright, spread it out. 11th level, you can create 6 lights and ignore the concentration if you simply make them float around within 5 feet of you. A very useful thing, since it is a concentration spell, makes it not very useful in combat situations if you need to see.
Exactly, or else you want to be holding some other concentration spell at the time.
And with the increased range that you get at the 5th level up, letting them stay really close to you is not going to diminish their effect too much, giving you a pretty good radius around you that you can see. Finally, at 17th level, you can create 8 lights, have them combine into a vaguely humanoid form of large size.
Used to be medium, now it's large.
And that's just a little fun. More lights. More lights, better lights, more fun. That's about all Dancing Lights does.
Yeah.
Next up.
Druidcraft.
Druidcraft.
Pretty simple. Any hand magic you can think of doing as a druid. There you go. Grow little plants, make some harmless sensory effects of puffs and things like that. Snuff out candles. It's one of those hand magic quality of life spells. One of the 3.
The prestidigitation for druids, if you will. At 5th level, you gain a deeper control over the elements, allowing you to shield a 10-foot radius sphere centered on you from snow and rain for an hour. Dim fires instead of snuffing them out. Recreate louder effects like a roar of a tiger or a rumble of thunder, as well as effects related to burning, such as acrid scent of smoke or burning wood. Additionally, you may touch a creature and remove any smell from it. A bit more usefulness, keep your camp set clean.
Yep.
That's about it. 11th level. You may choose to affect all plants within range when you use the cantrip. Make all seeds sprout, all flowers blossom, all fruit ripen. You may also create opposite effects. Make seeds infertile, plants wilt, and leaves dry. When lighting or snuffing out small fires, you may affect all of them within range. So instead of having to focus it on a single thing, you just get a radius effect that you can do pretty much whatever you want as an action. Affecting nature around you. And then finally, at 17th level, the range of your cantrip increases to 60 feet within your 10-foot radius sphere. You may also control the temperature, making it neutral, mildly warm, or mildly cold. Very helpful for a good huddled up long rest out in the wilderness, being able to just make it a comfortable temperature and not have to deal as much with the elements around you.
Yeah.
All just neat, more useful, more freeing.
Honestly, they're pretty much just it's almost solidifying just things that the druid might ask to be able to do anyway.
Exactly.
Like, can I guard this? Can I guard this flame? Yeah, sure. Okay. Now we officially say, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
Well, not official, but this homebrew, this person has said, you may officially do this.
Yes. And it also just kind of fulfills the fantasy of just being so powerful that you can, on a whim, just like affect all of the nature within sight of you, basically, if you're in a forest. It's pretty cool. Next up, we have the Friends cantrip. What does the Friends cantrip do, Samuel?
Casting Friends gives you advantage on all charisma checks against a target that is not hostile against you for 1 minute. Concentration.
And then they know.
Then at the DM's discretion, they may or may not attack you.
Yes. A useful cantrip. I find it a little bit difficult to use because of the time restraint on it.
Yeah.
And I'm always worried that if I were to take it and cast it on someone, that they would like get pissed at me, and any sort of negotiation that happens or information gathering is gonna go down, like south, Anyway,
Yeah.
At 5th level, the affected creature doesn't magically turn hostile, but it fully knows that you affected it with magic. Creatures may still seek retribution, and a creature prone to violence might still attack you.
So it's taking it from everybody's going to be mad at you to like
some people might.
Some people are going to be. Most people are still probably going to be mad at you, or some people might just be pissed off.
Makes one of the major detriments into a minor detriment.
Indeed.
11th level, you may substitute the somatic and material components of this cantrip with just verbal components, making it a bit more stealthy for you to be able to cast it without others around being able to tell that you're magically affecting someone if you're simply having a conversation. And at 17th level, the cantrip no longer requires concentration when you cast it.
Again, quality of life.
Again, quality of life. If you're like an illusionist, sort of enchantment wizard of some sort, you're gonna have a lot of fun with the Friends cantrip if you're leveling it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time. Guidance.
One
of my favorite cantrips. I don't need you to tell everyone what happens. As an action, you can touch someone for the next minute. They can choose to add a D4 to any ability check that they make.
Very, very much, I think, often hated upon, but then by a large amount of the community, but then popularized by Critical Role's campaign 2, where it was cast a lot.
A lot. One of the most cast spells in general, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. At 5th level, the range of the cantrip increases to 10 feet.
Meaning you don't have to exactly touch them. Which,
that's always great.
useful, but not the biggest deal.
No, but I mean, there are, if you think about like combining that with certain feats like Spell Sniper, which Spell Sniper I think says as long as it's basically, I'm paraphrasing here, as long as it's not a touch spell, the range increases. So there's always something.
This is an interesting one. At 11th level, if the target rolls a 1 on the d4, the cantrip doesn't end until the target either rolls a number higher than 1 or the duration ends. A free use without having to spend your action, I guess, if it goes poorly.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't feel like it would come up particularly often. It wouldn't.
I mean, again, if you're casting it a lot and suddenly like, okay, maybe it's an intense negotiation. All right, before we go in, guiding you. First one, they roll it and they're like, I got a 1, but I still succeeded. Well, okay, now we just have another chance to do better.
Later. That's fair. And then finally, at 17th level, you can select 2 creatures within range and have them both affected while casting the cantrip. I get the vibe that the creators of this realized that guidance is a good cantrip and didn't want to make it too powerful.
That's possible. I've actually seen a subclass, a cleric subclass, based around not the guidance cantrip, but the Bane spell. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel that you could kind of it's leaning into that direction where you could almost start to build a Bless Bane guidance cleric. Just that's all you cast or something like that.
That's like your main kit.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you get at higher levels. I mean, your first level spell slots, got to use it on something. Mm-hmm. It gives you an easy concentration, and then you can get as a cleric out your spiritual weapons, your big non-concentration spell. Spell. And then you can do a bunch of instantaneous non-concentration things and just have your standard, it's going to be useful, it's reliable, it's just as good when you get it at level 1 as it is at level 20.
Oh, yeah.
Just moving on.
Buff. All right.
Buff.
Gust.
Gust. What does Gust do?
Gust. You seize the air and compel it to create one of the following effects. You can cause a small or medium creature to make a strength throw or be pushed 5 feet away from you. You can make a small blast of air that's capable of moving an object no more than 5 pounds, and you can push it 10 feet, but not hard enough to cause damage. Or you can create harmless sensory effects, such as the rustling of leaves.
At 5th level, your gust becomes wider, capable of pushing large creatures 5 feet and pushing all small objects that weigh no more than 5 pounds and aren't held or carried that fit within a 5-foot cube away from you. Also, the cantrip may now hedge out vapor within a 5-foot cube.
So like your fog cloud, your cloud kill.
Yeah. Bit niche. That's fine. 11th level, your gust becomes stronger. You may push medium or smaller creatures 10 feet and objects that weigh up to 5 pounds 20 feet. By aiming a gust underneath yourself, you can increase your high jump and long jump distances by 5 feet. That's the interesting use there. There's the jump spell that helps with high jump and long jump.
Yes.
But not the best spell choice, especially with a lot of classes that have very limited spell casting. Mm-hmm. Your sorcerer, your warlock. I would even argue the wizard. They have so many spells that taking it and then prepping it every day is not really worth. Oh, the cat's moving. The cat's stretching.
Oh, and
we're getting a readjust. Or are you leaving?
No, she's clawing. Don't eat that.
No,
hey,
don't
do that.
No. We don't eat those. Lay down. Very good.
But yes, just real quick, the 17 level just increases everything even more. Your high jump, your long jump, and the amount you can push things
to 10 feet.
But the jump spell, honestly, like you're saying, every day to prepare it, you'd have to be in very specific situations. And I think, like, as you were saying, for people who can cast, if you're using the traditional casting system in here, where you have 4 first level spells a day, maybe not the best. If you were perhaps using the variant rule of the spell points,
A bit more useful.
a bit more useful, where you have that more flexibility to cast different spells.
I like it. It makes more use, as most of the things here. Just a little bit different, a little more useful. All good. Next up, we have light.
Light. You touch one object that is no larger than 10 feet in any dimension. Until the spell ends, you shed bright light in a 20-foot radius, an additional 20-foot radius of dim light. The light can be colored as you wish. The only exception is if you try to cast it on a hostile creature, it can make a save.
Yeah. Level 5, your light cantrip can shed bright light up to 20 feet in radius to a minimum of 5 feet, and dim light for an additional distance equal to the bright light radius. While the light is within 300 feet of you, and you can see it, you can use your bonus action to change the color of the brightness of the light. Make it a little more dancing lighty.
Yeah.
Level 11. Level 11. You may shoot the cantrip out in a bolt of light. It has a range of 120 feet and is under the same limitations as in the description. Unwilling targets must succeed on a dexterity saving throw to avoid the spell. So if you want to cast light on someone that is hostile, you have range to it, add a bit more range to it, and it changes the spells, or changes the save to a dexterity saving throw. 17th level, the light cantrip can shed bright light up to 40 feet in radius to a minimum of 5 feet, and dim light for an additional distance equal to the bright light radius, making it more light.
Yeah.
More light, better range when you shoot it at someone, which is not something that I would ever really think to do.
Yeah, I can. I mean, maybe if you wanted to, look and see down a tunnel, just meow. Okay, neat.
Yeah. Next, one of the top tier cantrips, Mage Hand.
Mage Hand. Create a spectral hand. Float at a point you choose within range. The hand vanishes if it is ever more than 30 feet away from you or cast a spell again. You can use your action to control the hand and use it to manipulate objects. You can move the hand up to 30 feet each time you use it, and the hand cannot activate magical items or carry more than 10 pounds.
At 5th level, you ignore the verbal component when casting the cantrip. You may make the mage hand fully visible. Being able to silently cast it, it's awesome. Love removing a verbal component.
Now you just flick your hand and it is there.
Indeed. And you can make it look like a hand and just be there.
Pretty creepy.
Oh yeah, you can do some weird kinky stuff as a bard.
Oh, I'm gonna do some weird shit.
11th level, the distance of the cantrip increases to 60 feet, and you may change its visual style as long as it still has the structure of a hand. So instead of just making it like a Smash Brothers style white hand, you can now make it like a sexy hand.
A sexy hand?
For this bard situation that we're dealing with. 17th level, Mage Hand can carry up to 20 pounds. And can be made to appear up to 2 times bigger than normal. There's more sex jokes that can be made there.
Yeah.
Again, some upgrades that are not as consequential as some of the other cantrips because Mage Hand is already really, really useful.
And it already has the Arcane Trickster has buffs to Mage Hand as well.
Oh man, an Arcane Trickster would love all of this. So much. So much.
Just so much.
So much. Moving on, Magic Stone.
You touch 1 to 3 pebbles and imbue them with magic. You or someone else can make a ranged spell attack with one of the pebbles. If it is thrown, it has a range of 60 feet. If someone else attacks with the pebble, the attacker uses your spellcasting mod on the attack roll. On a hit, it deals bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your spellcasting mod. Hit or miss, the spell then ends on that stone.
You cast Blade Ward on yourself. That damage would not be negated.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. It should be noted that the Magic Stone is a bonus action cantrip.
A bonus action cantrip. Love a bonus action. Cantrip. At 5th level, you may enchant any small non-magical object that fully fits in your palm and weighs less than 1 pound. For example, you can enchant a playing card or a needle, but not a vial with a magical potion. You may enchant up to 5 objects at the same time. Additionally, an object enchanted in this way can ricochet off an object once without losing any of its speed, potentially allowing it to be shot behind a corner. If you do not see the target, the attack is made with disadvantage. Interesting.
That is interesting. This magic stone with just that 5th level buff could be an entire build on its own.
Oh my gosh. That could be an entire like magic initiate weird fighting style fighter right there.
Throne fighting style.
Oh, thrown weapon fighting. Now you're speaking my fucking language, dude. At 11th level, if the enchanted object hits the target, it ricochets once. You may make a second attack roll with disadvantage against a target within 10 feet of the original target. You cannot attack the same target twice. And then finally, at 17th level, you can enchant up to 10 objects and may choose for them to slowly float around you a few inches out without dealing damage. So now you just get to be like magic stones, and then they just float around you looking cool, and you can go, hooah! Kind of like Gambit.
It's a cool visual.
Oh yeah,
Love a good visual.
The buff is very evocative, and now that you've said the thrown weapon fighting style, I mean it probably not a very meta or very powerful build, but a very interesting and flavorful build for sure. Definitely, since you can now enchant a playing card. So the best way to live out your X-Men Gambit dreams.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some very creative people out there who could make that build very useful.
Very.
Maybe not your frontline damage dealer. Maybe not your healer. Probably not your healer.
Probably not.
But
next up, the mending.
This spell repairs a single break or tear in an object. Basically, as long as the break or tear is no larger than 1 foot in any dimension, you mend it, leaving no trace of former damage. This spell can physically repair magic items or physically repair a magic item's construct, but the spell cannot restore magic to such an object.
At 5th level, the spell can partially reconstruct mundane objects, even if 4/5 of the object is present, or the cumulative corrosive damage to a weapon is no more than -3. For example, you may restore a key that has a small part of the tip missing, or restore a chipped sword.
You know what I can see people who I know doing with this?
I'm taking every key I can find.
Oh, I was
fixing it.
I was gonna say, you know that thing you can do where if you mail dollar bills to the U.S. Treasury, and as long as 3/4 of the bill is still there, they will send you a whole new bill. And the idea is you could tear a quarter off of 3 bills and send them each individually and make an extra $1.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but I can see some people we know being like, "That's all I do.
That's all I do for my 2 months of downtime."
Great, doesn't work.
Yep. Government doesn't do that here. 11th level, the spell can mend any amount of fragments of an object that could fit in a volume of a 1-foot cube, or a tear that is 3 feet in any dimension, or a weapon destroyed by rust or corrosion.
Fun.
You can fix bigger things.
It's the evolution. It's the natural evolution of this spell.
And then 17th, the spell can mend any amount of fragments of an object that could fit in a volume of a 5-foot cube, or a tear that is 10 feet in any dimension. So theoretically,
hypothetically,
would you be able to mend something that has been atomized to dust but fits within a 5-foot cube? That's pretty dope.
That's something that you would ask your DM and they'd be like, "Fuck, now I have to think about that."
Next up, another very useful cantrip that I'm a fan of, message.
Message, yes. You point your finger towards a creature within the range and whisper a message. The target, and only the target, can hear the message and can reply with whisper that is only a message you can hear. You can cast the spell through solid objects as long as you are familiar with the target and know it's beyond the barrier. There's some stuff that'll block it. The normal stuff will block it.
Lead, wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the spell doesn't have to be in a straight line. It can freely travel on corners or through openings.
Very neat. In competition for one of the spells that was most cast during Campaign 2 of Critical Role, message.
Yes.
At 5th level, you ignore the somatic component of the cantrip.
Cool.
Stealth message.
There you go.
11th level, the range increases to 300 feet.
Now that
long message.
That is something.
That's nice.
That's nice. That's a
nice.
walkie-talkie at minimum.
Oh, yeah. 17th level. The effect changes to a telepathic connection. You no longer have to whisper the message and may transmit it mentally alongside a simple mental image. You may ignore the verbal component of this cantrip. Just turning it into telepathy.
Yeah, I mean, at 17th level, you expect somebody in the party to have telepathy, kind of anyway. So yeah, I wouldn't take message specifically for that. You know, if I was like starting a campaign, I wouldn't take message specifically for that 17th level effect. But
pretty neat.
Still probably take message. It's a good cantrip.
Next up, one of the great cantrips.
Minor Illusion.
Oh boy, it's a long one.
It's a long one. I'm going to paraphrase it. You can create a sound or image of an object within range that lasts for the duration. If you create a sound, its volume can range from a whisper to a scream, and you can make it sound like whatever you can mentally imagine it sounding like. The object is going to be something static that can be no larger than a 5-foot cube. It cannot create sound, light, smell, or any other sensory effects, and does not hold up to physical inspection. And creatures can make investigation checks against your spell save DC to see if it's real.
You want to hustle some people on the street? Get some little street magic going?
Yeah.
Make a little pocket change? Good to go.
There you go.
At 5th level, you may create up to 2 images of objects or sounds that must fit in a 5-foot cube. At 11th level, you may create up to 5 images of objects or sounds that must fit into a 5-foot cube, and the range of the cantrip increases to 60 feet. And then at 17th level, you may create any amount of images of objects or sounds that must fit in a 5-foot cube. Again, an already really, really good cantrip that they just kind of incrementally just kind of turn up just a tiny little bit because it's very easy to make it way too powerful.
Have you ever seen the argument of that the minor illusion is a better disengage?
I feel like this is going to annoy me, but yes.
It annoyed me, so probably. So the argument, I saw this on TikTok. I don't remember the creator who said it, but basically, since it is a solid object, when you use you can cast this, and then if it's a solid object, the opponent hypothetically can't see you through the if you make a wall, it would have to fit into a 5-foot cube, but no one says you can't turn that cube
straight up and make it flat,
make it pointy. Yeah. So hypothetically, you can have like a 7.5-foot wall, and then the opponent can no longer see you, so they can no longer attack you as you run away. And he said that the bonus was they might waste their next turn investigating to see if the wall was real.
I hate that. I hate that so much, but I agree.
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, no.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was annoying. Moving on, Mold Earth. I believe that is a Xanathar's cantrip that just lets you. But Mold Earth, you can change some earth in a certain amount of space.
You can excavate earth instantly. You can change the shape, color, and appearance of both dirt and stone, and you can make it difficult terrain.
At 5th level, you can have up to 5 non-instantaneous effects of the cantrip active at a time, and you can dismiss all of the effects as an action. At 11th level, the shapes and colors you make appear on the dirt or stone last for 12 hours. You can move it up to 5 cubic feet of earth along the ground and deposit it up to 15 feet away. Additionally, you may excavate even-packed earth. At 17th level, the shapes and colors you make appear on the dirt or stone last for 24 hours. You may cause all dirt or stone within 5 feet of you to turn into difficult terrain, including the ground on which you stand for 24 hours. Also, you may mold up to 10 cubic feet of stone. Now, that 17th level one is interesting, because given enough time, 24 hours, you can set up a battlefield of difficult terrain that you can then create a distance between you and an opposing force.
Oh, yeah, if you want to set up something where, you have a really good set of archers or spellcasters who have ranged spells, suddenly a 30-foot set or 30-foot block of terrain now becomes technically a 60-foot block of terrain.
All very good. Moving on to the bread and butter do everything cantrip of the arcane casters, prestidigitation. Prestidigitation. Worcestershire sauce.
As everyone knows, you can create sensory effects. You can light or snuff out small flames, soil or clean an object, chill, warm, or flavor food, make a small mark or symbol appear on a surface for an hour, or create a small non-magical trinket or illusory image that can fit in your hand.
At 5th level, you can have up to 5 non-instantaneous effects of the cantrip active at a single time, and can dismiss all of the effects as an action. You can also dry any creature within range. At 11th level, the range of the cantrip increases to 30 feet, and you may create non-magical or illusory image trinkets that can fit in both of your hands. And you may light or snuff out all candles and torches and small campfires within range. 17th level, you may clean or soil an object no larger than 5 cubic feet and can chill, warm, and flavor up to 5 cubic feet of non-living material. The duration of all your non-instantaneous effects increases to 8 hours, and you may also create a non-magical trinket or illusory image that can fit in a 1-foot cube. Just small incremental increases because, again, it is already one of the most useful and most versatile cantrips that is available to arcane casters.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
One of the least picked cantrips. Resistance.
1 action. You touch a willing creature, and before that spell ends, the target can roll a d4 and add that number to its saving throw of its choice.
Using an action for a single d4 once only against saving throws.
Yeah.
Tisk, tisk, tisk. At 5th level, the range of the cantrip increases to 10 feet. Tisk, tisk, tisk. 11th level. If the target rolls a 1 on the d4, the cantrip does not end, and the target can... until the target either rolls a number higher than 1 or the duration ends. At 17th level, you may select 2 creatures within range to have them both affected while casting this cantrip. Sadly, Resistance gets the guidance treatment, but it's not as good as guidance to begin with, so it probably needed quite a bit more.
Yeah, especially since the guidance is almost very specifically a non-combat spell, whereas resistance is supposed to be a combat spell. You very rarely know when you're going into situations, I'm going to have to make a saving throw.
Why it isn't a bonus action cantrip is beyond me. I feel like if it's a bonus action cantrip, then keep everything exactly the same and it's good. Straight up.
You know what? I agree.
Next up, Shape Water. I believe a Xanathar's thing as well.
Yes. You choose a 5-foot cube of water and you can manipulate in the following ways. You can change the direction. You can animate it simply. You can change the color or opacity. And you can freeze the water, provided there are no living creatures in the water. At 5th level, well, I'm just going to say this has the same treatment as a minor image as Shape Flame.
5 more non-instantaneous. Can dismiss as an action. Additionally, if the water does not have any creatures in it, you can boil it instead of freeze it. 11th level, you manipulate the liquid. You can manipulate a liquid that is at least half made of water. Such a liquid would fit in a 1-foot cube. You can make it move through the air within range. You can water bend. If you want to splash the liquid onto a creature, it can make a dexterity saving throw to dodge out of the way. You can throw acid on people now if it's half water. 17th level, you can control up to 5 separate groups of liquid that would each fit in a 1-foot cube at the same time. The duration of your non-instantaneous effects increases to 8 hours. The standard fare.
Yep.
But the whole water bending image is pretty cool.
They literally add a image of waterbender.
Yes.
I love it.
Beautiful art. That one, beautiful. Very Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Indeed.
Next, a spell that I really like for the druid. Shillelagh. Shillelagh.
As you take a wooden object that you're holding and imbue it with nature's power for the duration, you can attack using your spell casting ability instead of strength for the weapon attack and damage rolls, and the weapon's damage die becomes a D8. The weapon also becomes magical if it isn't already.
Now, this is one of the few cantrips that are included here that are technically a damage-dealing cantrip, but it is one of the damage-dealing cantrips that doesn't actually increase the number of damage dice that are used, much like a firebolt or an eldritch blast would.
Yeah, it almost feels like they forgot it.
Well, I think they mean Shillelagh as something that is just kind of a backup plan, really.
But at the same time, like you're gonna. I mean, yes, you're gonna have more powerful spells to cast down the line. Maybe Shillelagh's not going to be your first choice, but same with Firebolt. I highly doubt that.
Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. But
So one of the standards across, you get the additional D8 at 5 to 2D8. You get an additional D8 at 11 to 3D8, and an additional D8 level 17 to 48. Also at level 5, you can use this cantrip on any weapon made of wood. Additionally, as an action, you can make a special attack that releases the magical powers imbued in the weapon. Make a melee spell attack against the target. On a hit, the weapon deals an extra 1d8, 2d8 total, and the spell ends. Special attack goes up to 3d8 at 11 as well. Goes up to 4d8 at level 17. And when you cast Shillelagh at 17th level, you may apply it to 2 weapons you were holding at the same time. Your standard buffs that you would expect from a damage-dealing cantrip, and a nice little special attack as well. Neat. Next up
is Spare the Dying. You touch a living creature that has 0 hit points, and the creature becomes stable. This spell has no effects on undead or constructs. Another one of the cantrips that is often very much disliked by the community.
Yeah, I think it gets most of its hate is a bit unnecessary. It serves its purpose. It's very useful at lower levels before you have Revivify, and it's useful to prevent the need to spend valuable material components on resurrection spells. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people give it credit for.
I agree, and I believe the Grave Cleric has some buffs already to it. Letting them cast it at range, and I think it's a bonus action maybe.
Yeah, the Grave Cleric will love this. At 5th level, the range of the cantrip increases to 15 feet. At 11th level, you may ignore the somatic component of this cantrip, so you can verbally do it. 17th level, you may target all dying creatures of your choice within a 10-foot radius around the original target. The affected creatures restore a single hit point after 1 minute unless they start dying again. So this spell can now help people get up immediately after combat without having to use healing magic on them.
Very, very useful.
All very reasonable. And I can tell that the designer of this homebrew kind of acknowledges that, yeah, the spell is better than people give it credit for.
Yes, I think.
And they didn't overdo it. Second to last, we've got Prestidigitation's brother, Thaumaturgy.
It's true, though. Thaumaturgy. Another hand magic one. You can boom your voice up to 3 times as loud, cause flames to flicker. You can cause some harmless tremors in the ground. You can create sounds of dismay, really. The rumble of thunder, cry of a raven, or ominous whispers. You can unlock a door, or you can instantaneously cause unlocked doors or windows to fly open or slam shut, and you can alter the appearance of your eyes for a single minute.
This is the Haunted House cantrip.
This is the Haunted House cantrip, often attributed to warlocks and tieflings.
Yes. At 5th level, you can change your voice to sound more angelic or more demonic for a minute. You can also magnify your voice up to 5 times. Megaphone spell. 11th level, you can have up to 4 of the cantrip's 1-minute effects active at a time. You can choose to open or close all unlocked doors and windows within the spell's range. The earth tremors you cause are strong enough to make objects within the area of effect rattle without damaging them. Even better haunted house magic. And then at 17th level, you can choose to make all objects that aren't being worn or carried within the spell's range take 1 damage, whether through a loud noise, intense tremor, or unseen waves or splashes. The duration of your 1-minute effects also extends to an hour. The 17th level one I find a bit interesting. The deal damage to objects.
Yeah.
Even more haunted housey. It makes all the haunted housey effects more haunted housey and last longer.
Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with it. Still, I'm going to take Prestidigitation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thaumaturgy is already useful, already gets plenty of play, and now it just is a little bit better.
A little more fun.
And finally, one of the most reviled cantrips in the PHP.
True Strike.
Should be removed from the book. You should get a Sharpie and just black it out. I hate it. I hate True Strike.
You have this book. You could do that.
Yeah.
You extend your hand and point your fingers at a target in range. Your magic grants you a brief insight into that defense on your next turn. You gain advantage on your first attack roll against the target, provided the spell hasn't ended.
Here's the problem with True Strike. You use an action and do nothing on this turn. Next turn, you get advantage on an attack. So you roll 2 dice, you make 1 attack. Or you could, on your first turn, roll 1 dice, make an attack. And then on your next turn, roll 1 dice and make an attack. Thus rolling 2 dice and possibly making 2 attacks and not just 1.
And here's the thing. If you get hit in that minute, you have in that round, you have a chance to lose concentration.
Yeah. It's a bad spell. It's not worth taking.
No. There are so many more useful cantrips.
I almost don't even want to tell you what the benefits as you level up are to True Strike, but I will. I feel obligated.
You're a benevolent god.
I am benevolent.
You're a river to your people.
Something like that. At 5th level, your next attack gains a +5 bonus to the attack roll instead of gaining advantage, and the spell no longer requires concentration. I think a +5 and kind of interchangeable with advantage. Still, you're using your action to forego an attack to do better on another attack, which I don't like. 11th level, the duration of the cantrip extends to 1 minute, and you learn what the target's lowest saving throw between strength, dexterity, and constitution. Useful intel gathering makes it a little bit more worthwhile playing, but at 11th level, there's probably better ways to gain intel, and you might just be better served attacking.
Yeah.
17th level, you may spread the bonus to 1 ally within range of the spell when you cast it. Finally, instead of making 2 attacks with 2 dice, you now make 2 attacks with 2 dice. True Strike is bad. Don't take it. Even with this, don't take it. It's bad.
It's not. There is like 1. The preparatory, I'm looking, okay, now I'm going to jump down and attack. But that comes up so little. And there are so many other options. There are so many other ways to gain advantage. This is not.
If I were given True Strike for free as an additional cantrip to my arsenal, I might say no, just to spite it. Because I don't like it.
To spite it.
Because there's other things you could cast in the preparatory round before combat that would be better than True Strike.
Yeah.
You could cast a mage armor. You could cast a mirror image. You could get a fire shield going. You could get a buff spell going. You could, come on.
There are probably literally 100 different things you could do before you did True Strike.
Now, again, keep the effect of this spell exactly the same and make it a bonus action, and suddenly it becomes a really good spell. Bonus action True Strike, then you attack. You get free advantage.
Yeah. If you take a couple levels in Rogue here or there you go. You can have advantage and get your sneak attack in.
Then suddenly True Strike becomes a must-take cantrip for Arcane Tricksters. Solving your problems for you. Just forego all of that. Say it's a bonus action. Done. Anyway, if you want to take a look at this homebrew for yourself, we will put a link to it in the description of the YouTube video of this podcast. Now, Samuel.
Yes.
We've reached the end of our time here.
Yes, we have.
Do we have any questions from the TikTok chat?
Well, when I swiped away so that I could also look at the thing we were referencing, there was not. It was just Rachel saying things. Like,
oh, yes.
Hello.
Our friend Rachel. Thank you for saying hello.
Let me go, because it's not loading on mine. Let me go double check on your phone. No. She also said, Big Brother for the win.
Big Brother for the win.
Big Brother for the
win. Very good. Thank you, Rachel. We love you. Personal friend of the show. And us.
Yes, both. We have your water bottle. It's in the background.
Yes, we do have your water bottle. I will return it in the near future. You left it here. It's really hard to do a Q&A session without cues to A.
Yeah, so I guess this week we'll go ahead and bypass that section.
We'll bypass that section. We've already been going for almost an hour and a half now. The cat is getting ready to move from her bed.
Yes.
I feel like the time has come.
This was a little bit of a dry one.
A little bit of a dry one. Not a lot going on this week.
Nah, that's okay. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yep. Upcoming soon, we have Critical Role presents Call of the Netherdeep.
Very different.
As well as Tal'Dorei Reborn. Yeah, that's what's going on in the near future. If there's any interesting topics of D&D that we could focus an entire episode around, we have a couple of ideas on our own. I think we might talk about some of Matt Mercer's Homebrew.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot. We may address just the subclasses that we've seen play. We may discuss just the gunslinger and firearm mechanics in general. We may end up talking about some of our own homebrew that we may be creating, possibly releasing on Drive-Thru RPG for free. Pay what you want. For free.
For free.
If you want it to be.
If you love us a lot,
you can go over there. Best way to support us at the moment.
Yeah. Not Drive-Thru RPG yet.
Not yet.
End of the month.
End of the month. End of the month. End of the month. By the end of the month. It might be out by the time we post this.
It could. If we really dug deep.
We could. I don't think we will, but it could. Anyway. Not a lot going on. If they drop an Unearthed Arcana, if they drop a survey,
we'll be all over that shit.
You'll feel us. We already did the spell surveys. That was a good episode.
That was a good episode.
That was a quality episode. You should check that out. That was episode 3. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. Anyway.
Check out our other socials.
TikTok, Dungeon Bros YT.
Twitter.
YouTube, subscribe. Twitter, follow
Dungeon
us.
Bros YT.
Dungeon Bros YT.
Podcasting services.
Round the globe. Apple, Google, Spotify.
If you like this, give us a 5-star review. Say something to people.
If you don't love us and you would leave a review that is less than 4 stars, don't. Just don't. It's okay. We don't need it. We know we can improve. We've got a lot of room for improvement.
We do. But you could always hop into our Discord and give us some suggestions. We like constructive criticism.
We love constructive criticism.
We do not like destructive criticism.
On the topic of our Discord, I want to shout out Arianel, ERIONEL, for joining the Discord, as well as Mr. Q.
Mr. Q.
For joining the Discord.
Hi,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Q.
much. It is very appreciated. You can find a link to join the Discord server in the link tree, in the bio of like all of our stuff.
In the doobly-doo.
In the doobly-doo of the YouTube video. If you're watching on a podcast service around the globe, sorry.
Go over to our YouTube.
You can't really put links in the description of those.
No.
It's not a thing that they let you do.
Yet.
We'll make a change. We'll make them change.
We'll force them.
Oh, we'll force them, all right. We'll force them. Anyway, it's been a joy as always.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let the pretty, beautiful, hobbity tones from our good friend Andy Gray come